I drone, you drone, we all drone together. Because the government doesn't know where these drones are coming from, and we know, maybe. All this and more on Self-Evident Podcast. If it actually heard what we were doing between
they could hear us while it's running. That would be wonderful, and we'd probably lose our jobs.
We have a job. Hey, good morning. Well, afternoon, all that stuff. Good day. Okay, matey?
Good day to you, good sir.
Yeah, good day.
Or ma'am.
Because, what's up? It's Massey. This is Mike.
Yo.
Self-Evident Podcast. We got a lot to discuss. Well, actually, we have one thing to discuss, really. It's the drones.
It's
the drones.
It's always the drones.
It's the drones because, the government doesn't know. The government doesn't know what's going on. So, guys, if you haven't been to theselfevidenttruth.com, what the flip you waiting for? Get on it. Theselfevidenttruth.com. You guys can get a cool shirt. If you order now, I can't guarantee it'll be there by Christmas, but you can still order.
You will celebrate Christmas knowing you have a shirt on the way.
On the way. I thought about it this morning. We should have gift cards on our website.
Yeah.
So you could ship those out. You know what I mean?
That's definitely a good idea.
Smart idea. I didn't think about it literally till this morning. Anywho's, guys, again, thank you so much for all your support. We also have a year-end donation thing. You guys want to check that out. There's a newsletter on our website. You guys can see what we're doing for next year. Had a really cool board meeting with our board members. They're really excited about the future and what we're doing. Mike's also doing a lot of cool things in his ministry, The Forged, which is great. You want to check that out as well. Theforged.org.
There you go.
.org.
.com was too expensive. I was like, I'll be an org. I don't care.
Yeah. Org.com.
Org.com. Net. Me.
Edu.
Edu.
Edu. Gov.
.gov.
Theforged.gov.
That I need that one.
The gov. Anyway.
Then I sound official.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'd probably know more of what's going on than the government would.
Okay. So you guys remember when Ron Paul would talk about abolishing the Fed, the FBI, the CIA, and everybody was like, we can't do that because we won't have intelligence agencies all over the world. And then Musk and these cats are coming out. Well, not Musk, but Vivek and all these cats are like, we need to abolish the FBI. We need to put Kash Patel in front of all this stuff. But we can't do that because if we abolish it, we won't have intelligence agencies all over the world, making sure we have tracks of threats and blah, blah. And a drone comes in towards New Jersey, and we have no clue.
Oh, they are just mass circling that area for weeks. And it's like, you look at the government, it's like the government's holding a beer going, I don't know. What do you think? I don't know. Yeah, that's what we're going to tell you.
Yeah.
Where's it coming from? Don't know. Where's it going? Don't know.
Where is that balloon from? Oh, it's China. Definitely China. Definitely.
So, shoot it down? No.
We'll let it float. Can't shoot it down.
That would be horrible. Horrible shooting down an adversarial spy balloon. Don't do that. Let it sail over our nuclear sites and our military bases and go, oh, there goes the balloon.
You want to know how I know this is a distraction? Because one of the first things that was said about the stupid drone thing was, it's got to be an Iranian drone. Iran, Iraq. Every time there's always something in the Middle East. The Middle East is doing something to us.
Imagine, drones. It's Iran. We better bomb Iran.
That's the
Dude,
sentiment,
it's
man.
The scary sentiment of it.
How long have we been in Iran / Iraq / that whole Middle East area?
Oh,
since what, the late 80s, maybe even longer?
Now you're putting me on the spot.
For sure, Desert Storm and on. Correct?
At least 70s. At least the 70s, if not earlier. Because what was it? Iran, Contra, and all of that was that late 70s and everything.
So
and I open myself to fact checking because I can't remember. So if you want to put it in the comments, go for it.
Right. The point is, we have had soldiers over there for a long time. We're finally starting to pull them out of the Middle East, and then, oh my gosh.
And of course, we do that with just sound, smooth efficiency like America can. We're leaving Afghanistan. Okay, couple of months. No. It's like guys running through the base. Grab your crap. We're going. What? What about all this? Just leave it for them. So we spent how many years, how many billions upon trillions of dollars to reinstall the Taliban into government? That would,
yeah, slow clap.
slow clap, America.
So we're supposed to trust them if they don't know anything about these drones. Now, Mikey's got a couple of takes on it. I just think this is all a show. I think a lot of it is to. You ever notice in every cycle there's always something new? I think COVID was a big one. They hit that new. The problem with the people on the left, they beat something into the ground so hard where people are like, we just don't trust you anymore.
Right.
So then they got to
and then they double down.
Yeah, and then they got to come up with something more outlandish. To me, this drone thing is that thing.
I'm with you. I've heard the different theories, and we'll go through some of the theories for you just so you guys are aware, and maybe you haven't really heard about this stuff or you're not paying attention, as it probably doesn't really matter to you anyways in the grand scheme of life. Like, it is what it is, right? So first off, the theory is they're not drones, they're aliens. I don't subscribe to that because there seems to be more of a like running lights on these things. I'm not saying UFOs don't have lights, but there seems to be like red and green flashing like airplanes type stuff on some of the videos I've seen of these drones, right? Like more of a FAA regulation type stuff. I could be completely wrong. Again, post in the comments if you see something else. I don't think it's aliens. Now, could it be prep for aliens or whatever? Sure, maybe. You know, a bunch of stuff in the sky and everybody gets used to it, and all of a sudden, oh, there's the real one. The other one is that they're actually nuclear sniffing drones because either a warhead got lost or there's nuclear material that was stolen or something like that. And so they're sniffing out, you know, the radiation of these missing nuclear materials and all of that.
Nuclear sniffing drones?
Which supposedly exist, but...
I mean, we know the military has guns and tanks and bombs, missiles, planes, helicopters, submarines, drones even. Nuclear sniffing drones.
I mean, if you could detect the radiation signal from it, now the argument against that is like, okay, but these warheads would have pretty solid protection around them as far as radiation. I don't know. Then there's another one that it is a Space Force exercise that they can't tell anybody about because the technology is too advanced, so they'd rather just have people not know and question and all that, which that's like the number one argument right now is, oh, it's a government exercise and they can't tell anybody about it, you know?
Because government can keep secrets, but you can't.
And they don't have to balance their budgets or tell you where their money is going. Your money that they're spending.
And then we learned from a friend that the IRS tax code is up to interpretation. I want everyone to hear this.
It's all in how you argue.
The law is up to interpretation. That's not the definition of a law. Anywho, I'm kind of getting off channel here, but what I'm saying is it's like, what are we doing? Right? Like the government has all these secrets. And the drone thing is not like my favorite topic to cover. The problem is it's in the news cycle. We got to talk about it. Can government even be involved in these kind of things? Drones and freaking spying on other nations. And no, I mean, that's not, we were never authorized to police the world. You know what I mean? So all these things that we have, all this technology and stuff like that, we're preventing war. Are we, or are we creating it? Because do other nations like us being in their countries?
I think America has a pretty strong track record of trying to avoid war by causing a lot of it. We're great in that business.
And guess what? Someone's profiting from all this mess.
I'll go back to that because I think that needs reiteration. In Ukraine, just hear me out. We approve hundreds of billions of dollars to purchase ammunition, armaments, weapons, vehicles, all of that. Who do you think Ukraine buys it from? Typically the major weapons manufacturers. Well, America also sends over its own stuff, which we deplete our own resources. Well, we've got to restock. Guess who we purchase from? The major weapons manufacturers. Guess who are part of the revolving door between government, the military, and major weapons manufacturers? It is such a perverse system.
Dude.
It's like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to start a war, and then we're going to get paid 3 times over because of it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's literally what's going on.
So you keep it alive to keep those companies moving. Just like, think about it from the medical perspective, right? We got these kids that are basically set up for life. They come out autistic. You got to depend on government, drugs, everything. Like the government system of healthcare, I mean. Drugs and all that stuff. Vaccinations, all these things. I'm a firm believer that vaccinations do more harm than good. I'm a very firm believer of that. And of course, conspiracy, bro.
Anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, all that stuff. I don't care. You call me what you want. But it's true. I think that we create these lifelong dependent people on the pharmaceutical system because it never stops, right?
Yeah.
So like instead of like telling a person you got high blood pressure, why don't you go work out? It's here's a pill. Just try to take it easy. Don't work out. I'm going through that personally, right? Like my blood pressure was a little high, so they're like, hey, get on 10 milligrams of this. I started working out with the boys and I noticed that my blood pressure dropped. It's like, get up and work out, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But they don't tell you that. Like COVID, hydroxychloroquine, all that. Remember that? Like the whole thing.
Don't go outside. Don't get fresh air. Don't exercise. Don't get sun.
And forget eating healthy.
Yeah, no. No. You're going to need vaccines. You're going to need drugs. You're going to need ventilators. You're going to need hospital stays. Or eat healthy, exercise, get fresh air, get sunlight.
All the things God prescribed for us anyway. And here's what I'm thinking. I think the drone thing is a scare. I think it's up for more government lawfare. And what I mean by that is New York just put out a 27 no-fly zone notice. 27 no-fly zone notices in New York.
Yeah.
It's just more restriction for government, more place for them to make money too.
And they suddenly deployed a bunch of National Guardsmen to stand on street corners and subways and all of that. And there was a bill that just got passed in terms of, I think it was drone regulation and all of that. And I don't blame people who start asking that question. What's going on here? What are you guys gearing up for? And you look at some of these moves, especially like Hochul and this bill and all of that, and you can't help but ask, what's going on? What you guys doing? What's your weekend look like?
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't it freak you out? Let's just go with this, right? If we just saw a mess of semis carrying a bunch of tanks,
right, that
said UN on it,
which okay, can we dispel that whole tank video that guys, it shows up like every 5 years? The UN's moving in on the US. I've seen that video like 3 times over the past 10 to 15 years. So just cool it with that video, okay?
What was the video? I've seen it too.
It's a video of a bunch of train cars with a bunch of like, they were like APCs or tanks or something. Now they did not have UN on the side, but nobody's ever explained it. But my thought was, okay, so a order of tanks got finished and are getting shipped to military bases.
That happens.
I mean, it does happen. typically you might not just order one. You're probably going to order 50 or 100 and then spread them out across your bases to replace the old ones. Now somebody's keying in super hard. Like, the UN, I've seen the FEMA camps.
Yeah.
All right, Alex Jones.
Yeah. He actually said we'd be in FEMA camps by what, 2010?
Yeah, and Al Gore said that the oceans would overtake the seashores and we'd all be living in 10 feet of water by now. So, Alex Jones, Al Gore. I will say I have more respect for Alex Jones than I do Al Gore. But yeah, like guys like Jones we're all going to be in FEMA camps. And it's like,
yeah.
I'm
frogs are gay.
Yeah. They're making the frogs gay. Okay, bro. Take a chill. There's a little too much pre-workout going on in that room.
That's what they call it nowadays. Okay. Buddy, I tell you, like, to be so I was a part of the for years, first probably 2-3 years of my Jesus walk, I kind of got into the whole conspiracy theory thing. Locking windows. I remember, dude, I was like, oh my gosh, they're coming after me. One day I started going around the house locking the windows, and like I gotta attribute this to the Spirit of God. But he was like, I did not give you a spirit of fear. Why do you fear?
Oof.
And that was when I quit looking at that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it drove me more to fear than it did to faith.
Exactly.
So the fear was making me go and out promote it instead of the faith of Christ to overcome it. It's all doomed from here. We're just going to get put in camps. And it's like, whoa, dude, where's Jesus in this? You know what I mean? So that's what stopped me. And I'm not saying every conspiracy is bad. I'm saying I just quit following trains,
Yeah. And
sorry.
You mean trains with tanks?
Trains of thought is what I meant to say.
The rabbit hole is very dangerous because people slide down that rabbit hole and they can't get back out.
Right.
And I'm not against a good conspiracy theory.
I'm not either.
I love questions because guess what? I don't trust my government. And there's a lot of people who don't tend to trust the government. So when the government says, well, we don't know what's going on with the drones, there's a lot of people, me included, who go, you know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
The fact you're telling me you have no clue tells me you know exactly what's going on. You just don't want to say anything about it. And you look at the various conspiracy theories like 9/11 or, whatever, and the grains of truth are fascinating, and I wouldn't put it past the government to be in on false flags or moves against their own people. It's Machiavelli.
Right.
Can you see behind the curtain? But like you said, the problem is people get so spun up and scared that all they can think about is FEMA camps.
Mm-hmm. I think, too, this leads to another kind of topic, and I'm not trying to veer off the drone topic, but this whole threat of a government shutdown. People ask all the time, like, what happens with those? A lot. Or we get that question a lot. What happens when they do this? Well, I find it ironic that the Democrats are now coming out saying President Musk, the Musk-Johnson plan. It's like he has nothing to do with it, but they do it to scare you, right? To throw shade and to make sure that they're riling up Democrats and Republicans and saying it's all Musk, right? They do this crap. But the majority of the people spoke. The Electoral College spoke pretty loudly. And they still try to hang on to these narratives that keep them losing. All these people are going to be furloughed. Most of those people shouldn't have a government job. Most of those people should not have government jobs.
Don't look any further than Argentina, where a lot of government workers, guess what, lost their government jobs. They're going to have to figure something out.
That's right. Get back. I just want you to hear this. We'll get on the Starbucks CEO for being a billionaire, right? Oh my gosh, I can't believe this guy. Lois Lerner was busted going after conservatives, and we hire 80,000 more IRS agents.
Talk about doubling down.
Oh my gosh, this is so this is why I have such a distrust of government. Government themselves don't even know the Constitution. They don't understand it. They don't know it. They can't quote it. They can't tell you if they're authorities in what they believe or not. They can't tell you what they believe about government is real. They just do it.
And it's such a structure, such a massive monolith monster that all of the pieces, all of the people that are a part of it, most of them are in self-preservation mode. There's probably a small handful that are actually there for selfless reasons. And plenty of them will say, oh, no, I'm here to serve the public. Yeah, yet you're pushing pencils into a pencil sharpener for $120,000 a year every year, and you argue about how we need to have you there sharpening pencils, right? Like there's a lot of those people who are like, I'm just serving the common good. No, you're taking up space and money. And so you get a lot of people who are part of the self-preservation machine, and departments aren't talking to each other because some people think government is just this completely competent organization that everybody knows what's going on and they're all in on it, when in reality you've got plenty of departments and sectors and all of that are actually butting heads or not talking to each other because, well, if I help them out, then all of a sudden that's going to hurt me in the back end, right?
100%.
So you get this very like nasty cannibalistic system that's all bent on self-preservation.
100%.
And a situation like this, you could have where, say it is Space Force, just throwing out one of the theories. Let's say it is Space Force. Well, we're not telling the Army what we're doing because they mocked us and they don't need to know what we're doing. Or it's due to national security with the technology that we're working with, we can't let anybody know what's going on because everybody else is a sieve.
That's exactly right.
And everybody turns on each other, and it becomes a really nasty monster that then looks at you and says, well, you better get along and submit to me and follow what I'm doing.
So question to you, right? So let's do question to Mike and Massey, okay?
Here we go.
I kind of wanted to start doing some different new segments on our podcast just to kind of try some new things. Asking each other questions.
Yeah.
Do you think these drones and all of these things, experiments, if you will, are put under the military category because that's constitutional, can't be challenged? Do you understand what I'm saying? So we can invest money in the military, making sure our military is strong. So we put everything under the military blanket to basically theorize, to test, to have experiments. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like drones and whatnot.
It's a good question because does the government need to be in the realm of drones? And I think government will always tell itself, yes, it's necessary.
Right.
So they see what China does. They see especially China, because China is kind of our top military tech competitor. And my guess is they see what China does and they're like, well, we've got to catch up. So we need to be in charge of advancing this technology and using this technology. Now, is it constitutional? You could probably argue yes, because there's nothing in the Constitution restricting how the military advances technology. I think the big part of it would be, is it something you rely on the private sector for? Is it something that, and this whole concept of national security, I get it. I get national security, but it's kind of like the general welfare clause. The general welfare clause became such a blanket statement that anything is general welfare. It's just like anything is national security. If you got the right guy to say, well, this is a national security topic, we just can't talk about that. What's your take on it? What do you think?
I think they do. I think what happens is we learn to, and Paul's brought this up a lot, that Congress can use whatever means necessary to accomplish a task. So if we put it under an umbrella of something, we can just kind of carte blanche it, right? So all these government entities, the reason why they're so well funded is because we just put them under a government entity. Well, they're part of the executive branch. They're part of this branch. So in other words, well, we got to fund them because it's all accountability, I mean, even though they themselves are not held accountable to their own thing, but they're trying to hold you accountable.
Now,
to the
Pentagon only misplaced almost $1 trillion, Mass.
I mean, yeah, let's have some
only $1 trillion.
Let's have some mercy here.
Yeah. Come on.
Right? Because if you misplaced $1,000 on your taxes, right? Seriously.
Whack.
So here, I just want to read Jeremiah 10, okay? Hear the word of the Lord speaks to you, O house of Israel. Let's just go Christian. Thus says the Lord. Learn not the way, verse 2, learn not the way of the nations, nor be dismayed at the signs of the heavens, because the nations are dismayed at them. For the customs of the peoples are vanity. A tree from the forest is cut down and worked with an axe in hands of the craftsmen. They decorate it with silver and gold. They fasten it with hammer and nails so it cannot move. Their idols are like scarecrows in a cucumber field, and they cannot speak, and they have to be carried, for they cannot walk. Do not be afraid of them, for they cannot do evil. Neither is it in them to do good. Don't be dismayed at the signs. Don't be this whole thing, they use for Christmas. It's actually talking about man-made idols, is what they're saying. Adorning it with adorning it with silver and gold. That's what it's talking about. It's not talking about a Christmas tree here. Okay?
No, it was talking about a specific practice of taking it and turning it into an idol and worshiping it.
So here it says, their idols, verse 5, are like scarecrows in a cucumber field. They cannot speak. They have to be carried, for they cannot walk. Someone has to manage these stupid drones, right? For they cannot do evil, neither is it in them to do good. They're just machines. They're just idols. Don't fear them, right? There is none like you, O Lord. You are great, and your name is great in might. Who would not fear you, O King of the nations? For this is your due. For among all the wise ones of the nations and all in their kingdoms, there is none like you. They are both stupid and foolish. The instruction of idols is but wood. I'm looking at this going, we're getting all caught up in this idolatry of what the government is doing. And drones and all this bull crap. And I'm sitting here saying, God is above this. God will expose the wickedness. Have you not seen him expose wickedness at every turn right now? Do you think he's not about to do it now? Yeah, some may be deceived, but don't be deceived yourself. Don't fear them. You know what I mean? And I love the prophets because, dude, these words still ring true.
Yeah.
You know what this means? Governments have been doing this for years, centuries, eons, since the beginning of time. We've literally tried to play God, the Tower of Babel, bro.
I'm glad you brought up the Tower of Babel because people typically see it as like, oh, they tried to build a really tall tower. What a bunch of goofs. No. This was spiritual reaching for heaven. They understood something in what they were building that it could reach to heaven, that it, whether opening spiritual portals or whatever, blah, blah, blah. So here's my question to you, kind of along the drone line, but the concept of AI and Google,
I was just thinking that.
Google just came out with this Willow chip or whatever, which I'd really love to look into the origin of that meaning. Like, why we call it the Willow chip? And quantum computing, if you haven't heard, they came out with this quantum computer process that what would take all the supercomputers a trillion years to solve this equation, it did in like 10 minutes or whatever, right? And Google is gearing up. They want to build, from what I understand, they want to build something like 3 nuclear power plants to help power their AI projects. That's a ton of power. And I'm so glad you brought up the Tower of Babel. I want you, here's my question to you. I want you to explore and link or talk about that correlation between the prophets and even back to the Tower of Babel and man's heart to reach for things spiritual that aren't of God, and this whole AI mess.
Yeah, I think first off, when you look at the Tower of Babel, they all spoke the same language. They were after the same thing. I think social media, and I'm not saying the social media is the Tower of Babel. I think the Tower of Babel wasn't the Tower of Babel. It was our wickedness. It was our foolishness. The Tower of Babel was the product of our foolishness. The Tower of Babel was was the product of us trying to be God, right? So then what happens is AI. We're going to try to be God. We're going to have the mind of God. We're going to be above every man on earth, and we're going to be God. These guys, seriously, this is nothing new. Why do you think the kings of the old and the prophets, the kings of the old and historians would talk about, they had the best of the best when it comes to servants, when they had prophets, when they had diviners, when they had seers, when they had all those kind of things. Why? Because they wanted to be above the people, faster than the people, right? They wanted to rule over the people. So we need some kind of direction so we can lead the people and keep them under. That's what AI is doing. Now, we could use it for good or for wickedness. The king could be used for good or for wickedness. The king could be used to bless the people or to curse the people. That's where I think it's not AI that's demonic. It's our wickedness that creates the demonic in the AI. We place so much confidence and emphasis in something that turns demonic. We make it an idol. Instead of using it for our good, to automate things, to make sure that we're, all these things, we put our confidence and trust in it for it to do it for us. You know what I mean? Instead of supplement us. That's why I think marriages fail. I'm kind of going on a tangent. Because we put our trust and confidence that our wives will do everything and all I have to do is this, men. Or vice versa. So we put our confidence in someone else to do our job. That's what the Tower of Babel was. I'm trying to get up there. I'm trying to be God. So I'm putting my confidence in this tower, and then God goes, you know what? I've had just about enough of this stuff.
And look at what what they said. They wanted to create their own name.
Oh yeah.
They wanted to be their own God. They wanted to create their own name. Yeah.
That's why when there's confusion, like I'm just thinking of some movie scenes where they're like, man, that guy's just babbling over there because confusion, right? And God has already sent a massive amount of, because of our wickedness, confusion has now set into people. We don't know what to believe. We don't know who to believe. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know if governments are lying to us or even keeping the truth. We don't know if elections are rigged or not. There's always confusion. Is God really real or not? There's constant confusion, and yet we're trying to reach one thing. We're trying to be like God every time. We try to be the first of the first, the best of the best, instead of just being content with what God gave me. The last shall be first, and the first shall be last. We always want to be first with God. And I'm sitting here going, what did Jesus say about John the Baptist? He said, as great as he is, he will still be considered least in the kingdom of heaven. As great as he is. And you know what? John knew it too. John didn't ask for his calling. It was given to him at birth. Jesus didn't ask to be crucified. It was given to him by his Father. Comes to earth in flesh to take on the sin of the world. Paul didn't ask for his ministry. God gave him the ministry. Peter certainly did not ask. He was out fishing, and God gave him the ministry. And I think for us, we're like, I just want to do for you, Lord. For what? Like, why do you want to do great exploits for God, and yet you're not at home doing the simple exploits for God? You see what I'm saying? And so this whole Tower of Babel scenario, or the prophets were there to warn us not to become evil in the sight of God, because kings were always trying to conspire against its own people. They always wanted to be above the people. And what it is it's pride, it's arrogance, it's this thing that it's a God complex. You know what I mean? And every one of us carries it in some weird way, shape, or form. And if you're not crucifying your flesh every single day and telling your flesh to go under instead of being above, if you're not tempering your passions, if you're not going to the Lord and saying, Lord, I'm a dead man before you, I'm a dead woman before you, Lord, resurrect my body by your Spirit and use me today, dude, you will lose to your flesh every day. And some of us are in a revolving door because we will not crucify ourselves. You fight against your flesh instead of crucify your flesh. That's not the purpose of God. So in the Tower of Babel times, I'm just thinking of the story. When God decides to finally do this to them, he sends them confusing tongues. Why? So that he could say, you go over there, and you will never do this again. I don't want it. It was in his mercy that he did it. And I've heard people actually say this. He was afraid that men were doing it. No, God's smart. He didn't want people to be confused again. He didn't want them to do that again. So in his mercy, he sends them different tongues. You see what I'm saying? It's crazy to me. Yep. So then in the New Testament, we get tongues. Why? Why did we get tongues? Because we wouldn't listen to the voice of God. So we needed someone to give us a tongue because we wouldn't listen. And we needed an interpreter because we would not hear the word of the Lord. That's what tongues are for. That's literally what tongues are for. Yeah. Tongues are a prayer language to God. Yes, 100%, right? It's our prayer language to God. But when tongues happen in church, it has to be a foreigner that comes into your place to give you a word because you would not hear the voice of God. It's plain and simple. Same thing with the Tower of Babel. We do this with God where we try to play God. And this, again, we can try, and God always has his way. That's why this whole drone thing, things just don't scare me. They just don't. This drone stuff to me is a big distraction. I think they're going after Trump big time. I think they're trying to shut already they're developing the narrative of President Musk. They're going to use this against him the next 4 years. Yeah. They're going to keep this. They're going to keep their foot on the gas, and they're good at it. These narcissistic pukes that are in the media are disgusting. And if you and you conservatives are smart, you're smart because you've built a reputation on regurgitating what they're saying in order to feed the flame of anger in the rest of us. I'm not doing that this year. I'm going to say, I'm just going to speak this clearly. Whatever narrative they use, I'm not even going to listen to it because they're literally saying it amongst themselves and they're hoping that you share it. They're hoping that you do. You're doing it for them. Who's watching MSNBC? Who's watching CBS and ABC? These people are losing money. They're depending on you to share their mess. You're keeping them alive.
Especially with the gotcha stuff and all
of that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. MSNBC's losing money. You know what YouTube video you're sharing of them losing money? Their YouTube video. You know what's going up? Their views. You're giving them a voice. I don't know. I'm this whole prophet Tower Babel playing God. That's all this stuff is. That's why I have such a distrust of government, because they're not God.
And if you place the goal clearly, what's the goal? To create God or to be their own gods, right? Especially with AI. And some of these guys that are working on AI have flat out said, in so many words, that's what they're aiming for, is a superior intelligence to tell us what to do, to solve our world's problems for us. Boy, sounds kind of like you're trying to create your own God, which is actually in your own image. Because guess who has to program it, who has to plan it, who has to build it?
Bingo.
Right? So
100%.
We're building the wooden idol, but the wooden idol is built of circuits now.
Yep.
And the wooden idol can talk back to us.
But it has no will of itself.
Right.
It doesn't have a soul. It has no. So that's exactly what he's saying here. And I don't really do what the maker does for it.
And I think if I got prophetic, spiritual, scriptural on this, to me, that's what in Revelation, when it talks about like the image of the beast, to me, that's the pinnacle of AI, right? In some way, shape, or form, where they can turn around and very few people have the ability to argue and say, no, that's just a machine. There's just something to it that everybody of the world goes, oh my gosh, it's alive. It's real, right? And then all of a sudden, it is an image of just like you were saying, like AI is a tool, which means it can be inhabited by the wickedness if the people give it power, right? If the people give it their obedience, give it their belief in what it is, then all of a sudden, it's Antichrist.
Dude,
you know?
The fact that Dagon bowed before God, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You try to put your gods up against God, man, it's just not going to end well for you, right? But just to what you said about someone has to manage this whole thing, I think I look at it more as I used to think, what's the big deal with 3D printing? I used to think 3D printing, this is crazy. Then all of a sudden this AI power computer stuff. And I'm thinking the beast will be able to perform miracles at the drop of a hat. You're telling me 3D printing ain't ahead of its time by AI?
And
just create
the advancement of robots, the advancement of holographic imagery.
Oh, dude.
The advancement of AI creation out of thin air. You know, like let's go super like tinfoil hat. So you take holographic technology, you take the creation of AI, what AI can already do, right? You've seen those videos of like Trump playing the guitar and Elon Musk is playing drums or whatever, and it's like they're playing a big concert. It's crazy AI stuff. Then you take a supercomputer, AI intelligence, that you can build a body for it now, plus through holographic imagery creation, all of that, it's got the ability to create things that appear real to people when in reality there's no reality.
It's a hologram.
To it. It's a hologram, or it's fake. But it looks so real that people can't help but believe it. Oh my gosh, that's real. He just did that. You know, fire falling out of the sky. Why can't that be AI hologram? You know?
It's that Spider-Man movie when I forget the guy in the green suit. He does all those hologram machines, and it creates all this war and chaos. Did you watch that one? It's like the third Superman. No. It's when Tom Holland's last one, where it's like this guy, Dr. What's his name? Anywho's. He took Tony Stark's glasses because Tom Holland gave them to him.
Yeah.
Well, all these machines were creating these holographic events, and things were blowing up and all this other stuff.
Wow.
And then one of the machines got broken. That's how they found it out. It's like, wait a second. They pounded it, and all of a sudden it displayed this cloud and this monster coming out of the cloud, and they're like, oh. So I'm like, this is what could happen. Like, this is literally what can happen.
Yeah.
So what, and again, I'm just warning you guys, what's going to happen is when they start doing this, it's going to make it to where we're going to look at it and go, see, that's not demons. It's just an AI holographic thing. They're going to take away the spiritual in the pursuit of the physical.
Let's go down this train just for a minute, and then we'll end her
because
out.
you got to go.
Yeah, I'll have to get going pretty quick. But go down this train with me for a second. Let's say you use the Willow chip or Willow processor or whatever.
I'm going to look that up now.
You take that, you take AI superintelligence, so it's quote unquote conscious, however you want to, and it has access to things across the world to create a story out of thin air using AI, right? So all of a sudden, the newscast that pops on the TV as an emergency newscast is talking about how something is being attacked in this city over here, and everybody knows about it. Meanwhile, newscasts in China are displaying, well, one of their cities is getting attacked with this thing. And then all of a sudden, supercomputer AI processor with AI creation abilities, holographic abilities, whatever you want to say, is creating this entire chessboard story that the whole world is buying into because of the illusion that is put in front of them. Just like people were worried about a couple of years ago, like, what if AI is used to create a video of a president saying that he is currently nuking Russia, right? And Russia believes it. And all of a sudden a world war is goaded into from this false story. And I'm playing with this whole thing. We're tin-hatting it, right?
We're just theorizing.
Could you imagine if you've got this AI that has access to processing power of magnitudes above anything we've ever considered reasonable and can create this entire labyrinth of story across the world to psychologically engineer humanity into a certain situation? Like, golly, man, that sounds like something Satan would be rubbing his hands about.
That's exactly right. Salivating.
Yeah, just salivating.
Take
on
their
that type
faith
of
away from
topic,
God. Every bit of this has everything to do with fear.
Exactly. Illusion. Fear is illusion, right? I'm going to explore this because you just said that. Fear is illusion, right? Because what is fear? Fear is a concern about something that hasn't happened yet. Now, it could be 99% likely that it's going to happen, but you fear something that hasn't happened yet. You fear an outcome. You fear a possibility. And if you don't have faith in Christ, perfect love casts out all fear. If you don't have faith in Christ and love in Christ, well, then you are at the whims of the system and you have nothing to put your faith, hope, and love in. And so Satan will easily play on that. And I think that's where it gets of it'll deceive all and would deceive even the elect if were possible, but that deception is based on fear, which the elect who actually love Jesus can't be deceived into fear because perfect love casts out all fear. This is my TEDx talk.
Here, right there, read that. What? It's the meaning of the word willow, what it's associated with. I looked it up in Arabic and Sumerian.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Look at that. Read it.
So, people also ask, what is the symbolic meaning of willow? The willow's symbolic meanings in Western culture is associated with grief and mourning. Common to find these trees engraved on tombstones. Is associated with immortality and rebirth and can therefore symbolize death, blah, blah, blah.
Immortality and rebirth, grief and mourning. You know us, we don't really get into the conspiracy stuff. We're just not stupid, okay? You stay above what you can, but the point of God revealing something to you is not to put fear into people, but to put hope and joy into people. To say, prepare yourselves because war is coming or something like that. But be in joy, be of good cheer, I've overcome the world. None of this was ever meant to put people into fear. Perfect love casts out fear. Fear of death is gone from me because of Jesus. I don't have fear in my life. I cannot have fear in my life. I can't. And if you fear the unknown, and if you fear death, if you fear sickness, and we all do it. I've been there 100 times. It's that thing you just haven't died to with the Lord, and I'm not dead to it fully yet. I'm learning to die to it, where it's like, okay, you have my life now. This is yours. I don't know what else to do, right? There's always a fear of the unknown. But I think all these things drive you to a fear that's outside of yourself, where you begin to fear things you could never control in the first place. And it gets you distracted from your own life. It gets you distracted from your kids. It gets you distracted from your Christianity because you start to ponder things over here that you have no control over. The only thing you have to do is within yourself. Like, what is God telling me to get rid of? How am I supposed to walk uprightly today? How am I supposed to give hope to people today? And if people really walk in fear of their lives, well, then give them Jesus. So they don't have to have the fear of their lives. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, our drones, and they're going to hurt us in Russia and all this. Jesus, bro. Jesus come to give you peace. You cannot think about that stuff no more. So he give you joy and happiness and hope and love, right? So that when those things come, I'm not fearing man. I'm fearing the one who can destroy both body and soul in hell. That's who I'm fearing. I have a fear of him. And it's a healthy, reverent fear. It's not a fear of, oh my God, he's going to kill me. It's none of that stuff. It's really putting our trust in the Lord and really seeing this for what it is. Are there prophets out there? Sure. You know, I'm not saying those don't have any merit. Of course they do. Because that's what prophets do. They're supposed to do that, warn us of those things. But never should we be in fear about this crap. Never. Never should it ever come into our heads, oh my gosh, we should fear this.
And I'm convinced after today that fear is the driving force of what the delusion will be that's talked about in Revelation. If you believe Revelation is prophetic of events that are about to unfold, my position is I think that's the centrality, the central piece of the delusion that humanity itself can't get over that guttural, deep fear of being blinked out of existence.
100%.
Except if you're in Christ.
100%.
Because then you have the assurance of no matter what happens in this, I'm eternally saved.
Yep.
I'm eternal with God. So this whole experiment that I'm on this earth for maybe 70, 80 years at a good pace, whatever, I've got eternity with God to look forward to. So, all right, guys, that's our thoughts. What's yours? But we love y'all.
Comment down below, whatever your thoughts are.
We will be here on, what day is Monday? We should be here on Monday, right?
Monday.
What's the date?
That would be the 23rd. Yep.
Yeah, so we should be here on Monday. We love y'all. Have a great weekend. Merry Christmas season to you.
Uh-huh.
And
eat a lot of cookies.
Yeah. Eat yourself some cookies.
Uh-huh.